Whenever the US election takes place, it's like the only thing you ever hear about. My YouTube and Twitter feed was filled with absolutely nothing except news channels covering the results. It almost made me forget that there was another exciting event that happened that week. SpaceX Falcon 9 did some launches. Yay! It's weird because usually when something like this happens, all the flat earthers start making a bunch of videos crying about it. Surprisingly, it's kind of quiet this time. That or they're crying about the election instead. But yeah, this sort of inspired me to make a flat earth video. Inspired, more like reminded that these people exist. Ah yes, our good friend perspective. It's a shame that this word has been butchered by flat earthers. No one really used the word that way until flat earthers came along, trying to use it as a way to explain things like the sun setting below the horizon. But wrongly, of course. Our perspective of things do normally have an effect on something, but for the most basic things it is intuitive. The sun setting behind the horizon is one of those examples. You don't need to give us your explanations. It's one of those things that we already know and are aware of. Everyone knows that as things get further away, you see them shrink in size and converge towards the point. You don't need to try and bend this around in an attempt to explain everything that can't be explained on a flat earth. It's a waste of time, because this is intuitive. Okay, so there's going to be a long segment of video here by the flat earther, so we're just going to sit back and relax a bit. Talk to you guys after like 5 years, or however long it takes for him to make this explanation, I don't know. Yes, of course, it will always be like this, but notice how no matter how far the object, or in this case the cloud goes, it will never actually be parallel, much less angled downwards. There will always be at least a slight angle upwards, because the angle increases as the distances get longer and it eventually catches up to the height of the cloud. That is always going to be true. Sorry I interrupted, please carry on. I don't see how this second observer is relevant whatsoever. Okay, I'll actually stop now. I just can't help myself, you know? No. That's obviously not why you see the sun disappear behind the horizon. Okay, I'll applaud you for actually coming up with a semi-new argument. Flat earthers seem to reuse a lot of claims, so this is at least somewhat new. The fact that you're presenting this hypothesis probably means you don't subscribe to the original perspective idea. I don't know if that is actually the case for you though. Anyway, yes, the sun can obviously disappear behind clouds. It doesn't even have to be far away. Even if the sun and clouds are right above you, the cloud will block the sun. But if you think the sun setting is just a perspective of the sun disappearing behind clouds, then we can disprove it as soon as we show a clip without clouds. And here we are. We generally like to use the sun setting behind an ocean because there are no mountains or buildings or anything to obstruct our view of the sun. Water will always mimic a smooth surface, so the ocean is quite ideal. Moving on. Ah, that sunset looks really convincing now, doesn't it? So what's going on? There's a phenomenon called a false sunset. This happens when there are ice crystals or any other atmospheric influence that bends the light in such a way as to give us an illusion on the perceived position of the sun. The first scenario is when the index of refraction in the air between the observer and the horizon is higher near the surface of the water and lower as you climb upwards. This makes it so the light bends towards the normal, or in other words, bends downwards. As a result, even though the sun has already set below the horizon, you can still see it. Kind of weird, isn't it? The second false sunset is the opposite. The index of refraction gradient is low close to the surface and high as you ascend. As a result, light bends upwards. Therefore, even if the sun isn't technically behind the horizon yet, you can see it being chopped off. Now, what causes the index of refraction to differ and become a gradient? Well, usually it's the temperature of the air. Colder air is denser and has a higher index of refraction compared to hot air. It's physics 101. Depending on the weather and climate, you could have hot or cold air near the surface of the ocean. And although the conditions for false sunsets in general are rare to come by, once they form, they generally are pretty stable. And light refraction isn't the only method to get light to bend in wacky ways. You can also have a reflection of light on the water or clouds, and although you can't see the clouds here, it blocking the sun is possibly what is happening here. So you talking about clouds is onto something, although I'm sure you did not intend it to be this way. Using these combined conditions, you can get all sorts of insane looking sunsets like this. And although it's difficult to pinpoint exactly what is causing this weird looking sunset, it's likely a combination of factors, from the false sunset bending of light to something actually blocking the sun. But I actually don't think it's necessarily a cloud, but could easily be pollution or aerosols near the surface of the water, obstructing and deflecting light rays away. Wow, the more I write this script, the more I think something else is causing this. I thought I was sure of the answer at first, but now not so much. Anyway, obviously this type of sunset is rare and most sunsets look like this anyway. Cherry picking won't do you much good. And also your camera on the clip to the left is below the simulated ground. That's a no-no. Alright, we have some extra time, so let's just go through another quick video. Again, I'm gonna have to let the clip play for a little bit. These videos with text and no narration are kind of annoying. Like, you don't need to show the text on screen for that long. We can all read faster than 1 word per minute. Yes, the sun is a light in the sky, I guess, but that doesn't mean we can't observe its patterns, study it, measure its output, things like that. You're trying to imply that all lights are equal, but they're simply not. Just the sun's trajectory in the sky is enough to tell us a lot about the world we live in. You're trying to simplify something way too much in order to undermine everything we know about the sun. Sorry, that's not going to work. Thanks for watching today's video, guys. Special thanks to Fireshard, Liam, Alan Morton, and JN for supporting this channel at the highest level on Patreon. See you next week.